It's been 3 years since the last release of any Need for Speed game, and the fans have been waiting eagerly at this one. From all of the leaked shots, the gameplay trailers we were shown, it looks like a promising title, but did it live up to the hype? Was it better than Need for Speed Heat, or was it another failure? Today I'll give you my deep down analysis about this game and whether it's worth buying, so stick around. Full disclaimer, this video will contain spoilers regarding the game and its story, and with that out of the way, let's dive into the depths of Need for Speed Unbound. So right off the bat, you are given the option to customize your character however you want. I went for this model because it looked the same as the Gigachad face. Lots of clothing brands to choose from, including the Palace clothing. Once you are done making your Gigachad, it's time to choose a starter car. And why are they so good? A Countach, an S14, and a Dodge Charger all can be chosen as starter cars. Whatever you pick will impact the story a bit. Afterwards, you and your friend Jasmine spend time restoring the selected car and accomplish your goal and take it for a test drive. Here you are shown the break the drift maneuvers, the handling overall, and what you can be expecting from this game, but I'll go into the handling talk a little bit later. You meet Rydell, whose garage will be the main hangout for the crew, and you're told on how you can participate in races throughout the meetups. There are several underground meetups all over Lakeshore, and you can drive up to them to participate. There are other rivals with their own unique descriptions, and after doing some events with Jasmine, she tells you of a high value car you need to pick up, which is a Nissan 400Z, but once you drive it back, she ultimately backstabs you. Where have I seen that before? 2 years go by, and Rydell is depressed, and you get a call from a random woman called Tess to drive her back to the garage. Here's where she offers you a deal. She gives you money for a starter car. In exchange, you race and she makes money off of you. You will meet Jasmine as she will be driving an upgraded version of the starter car. And she also mentions the big event called the Grand. So we have 4 weeks of both day and night events to do leading up all the way to the Grand, where you can try and get your ride back. It's like in Most Wanted, where Razor sabotages your ride and steals it, and you work your way up to get it back, but in this game you get to choose what car you'll be racing for, which I think is a pretty cool detail, giving more meaning to this starter cars and more reasons to try and get it back. You have a lot more starter cars to choose from. I went with the Eclipse since we haven't seen that car in such a long time, and now it is up to you to do the most with each given day. You have 2 money icons on the top right. The green one is the money you got right now, and the red one is the cash you have earned but need to bank in, otherwise if you get busted, you lose all of it. There are no levels anymore like there were in Heat. Now you just simply play through the story and unlock more vehicles in certain race days. What I like in here with the calendar system is the way day and night and heat accumulation systems help create situations where it is beneficial to do planning before leaving the garage, making things more strategic than what it would seem. The races have their own risk and reward factors. Some races might give a little bit of heat while others will fill up the bar by half, and your heat will carry over into the night, so if you're at heat level 5 in the day, expect to see the steroid injected Ford Raptors in the night. Seriously, these things are not fucking around. What the what? Dude. What? One issue I think most had here is that you earn barely any cash at the start, so you are very limited on what you can do with your money. Do you spend a day's worth of cash on upgrades or making your car look a bit more interesting, or just save the cash to buy a better car later on? Would have been great if the rewards were a bit higher early on to give you a bit more freedom to play around with, but at least in the later weeks, the rewards are much higher. While playing this game, I was a bit surprised to see different elements from other games introduced in here. Like for example, in the events, you can bet against other racers, an element that we have seen before in games such as Juiced 1 and 2, and during the races you have a second nitro that builds up from different actions you do in the race, and when filled up a bit, it will give you a boost similar to how the boost is in the Midnight Club series, and also characters being able to trash talk you in the races depending on if you're racing really good or being an absolute dumbass. Speaking of the events, what I like is that each of the characters that you race against have more life into them. You can read about each person's background, how old they are, where they're from. Nice to see these characters more fleshed out. That was a thing missing in Heat. Apart from characters in the story, no one else really stood out. Let's talk a bit about the cars and customization options. Like in Heat, you have a lot of options to play around with. You can select pre-made kits or select the parts individually, although some of these kits are definitely out there in terms of looks. Some of these things we have seen in Forza Horizon, like the emotes tab, custom horns, and etc.
Beep beep.
The car list is mostly the same as the previous titles, with some older cars returning in here, like the Eclipse, Honda Civic, RX-8, and newer cars like the Mercedes 190E, S14, 400ZX, and lots more. The cars are classified into classes, namely B, A+, S, and S+. Depending on how fast the car is, cars can move classes with the help of the performance customizations in the game. There are a lot less performance parts compared to Heat, and they vary from Sport, Pro, Super, and Elite. But to unlock higher end upgrades, you have to upgrade your garage as you progress through the game. The garage upgrades don't cost too much, so you can unlock these parts relatively quickly. There aren't a lot of different race event types. It's just circuits, sprints, and drift events, and the takeover events, which is the same as the speed cross events from Need for Speed Payback. It can get tiring to do them after a while. What would have been nice is to have a bit more variety in the events, like for example the outrun events from Underground 2, maybe speed trap or knockout events from Most Wanted, just to change it up a little bit. And in some of these events, the AI have such a big advantage over you that it's almost impossible to win. Look at Rocky, look at him. 500 meters already, man. I am pushing this thing to its limits. 600, man. I didn't even bet against him, dude. Yet he's so fast still. 700, 800, 900. He's just going, man. Main car Rocky is the fastest thing in this game. The cops in here feel a bit more fun and interesting to evade. They are more aggressive, but in the early stages, it's fairly simple to avoid them. And even if they start chasing you, 9 out of 10 times, they will crash themselves out on some random car or whatever is behind you. In Heat 4 and 5, it becomes a bit more intense, but still manageable. They changed the way you can take and give damage to others. In Heat, if you tried attacking the cops, you would just be losing a lot of health. But in Unbound now, you don't take any damage when being the aggressor, which is a really good change, letting you have more fun with the cop chases. You can also fix your car if it's critically damaged the same way in Heat, but now once you fix it, you have to wait a couple minutes for another chance to get a repair, instead of the 2 or 3 per night you would have in Heat. One annoying thing that occurs a lot is when you're escaping them and a new cop spawns right in front of you, restarting the chase, or the amount of cops the game spawns around your area, barely giving you any chances to escape. One thing that needs to be mentioned is the cel-shaded art style and effects in this game. It has stirred up a lot of mixed opinions from the community. In my opinion, I think they are cool and something new that we haven't seen before in prior Need for Speed games, giving a bit more life into the environment. I do understand not everyone's a fan of this, but just seeing them trying something new instead of the same stuff over and over is a nice touch, but do let me know your opinions on them. As for the environment, it looks beautiful in this game. The way the colors are for both day and night, the vegetation, the light trails coming from your car while driving at high speeds, the countryside, all just felt so nice to look at. Looking at Heat and Unbound side by side, you can notice such a big difference in the quality of both worlds. Let's mention the handling a little bit. It is very similar to Heat's handling, but a lot more tuned and refined than before. You can also play around with the sliders and get it the way you want it to be. Full grip builds, full drift builds, whatever you like. In the start it's pretty good, but it can be tricky with the S or S Plus cars you get later on, especially with the sudden grip boost with the second nitro. But the drift handling doesn't feel truly satisfying. You can tell it was carried over from Heat because it's hard to keep a drift going or to initiate one. I think they should have kept the drifting as it was from Payback, but nowadays it's a lot slower and more tedious to drift overall. Multiplayer doesn't have a whole lot to do right now, and parties are limited to 4 members only, which really sucks, but hopefully will fix in the near future. Currently, if you have a full lobby and you're in a session, you have to remove someone from your party. They will still be in the server and then invite another friend and hope the server isn't full for them to join, leading to such a janky way of playing with your friends. And the events you do are simple playlists that the game already has. What would have been nice is you being able to make your own playlists. Like in Most Wanted 2012, you could choose up to 5 random events. It could be races, challenges, whatever. You pick those, name the playlist however you want, and just play with your friends. That's the main thing I liked in that game, and it definitely would help in Unbound's case, making the multiplayer much more entertaining, or even better, the speed lists from Payback that most people enjoyed would be a good addition here. There's also no cops in multiplayer, but they did mention might make an appearance later on, including the betting system. One area I feel like the game is a bit meh in is the narration and voice acting. The male voice actor lacks any emotion whatsoever. It's like he's stoned 24/7 whenever he's talking. I haven't tried the female protagonist, but most have told me that she sounds a lot better than the male protagonist. As for the soundtrack, I listened to it a bit. I think there are a few decent songs in here and fit the theme, but then you have songs like Money, which makes your ears bleed instantly. It's not the best, I do agree with that part, but it is miles better than Heat's soundtrack, and I did listen to that as well. Here's the result of that experiment. Overall, would I recommend this? Absolutely. Despite some flaws the game has, it's a really decent experience, but a lot of new fresh ideas implemented, fun gameplay, world to explore. You're guaranteed to have a good time with this game, and if I were to rate it, I would give it a 7 out of 10. A little bit better than Need for Speed Heat, but it doesn't feel a whole lot different. I would like to hear your thoughts on this game and the topics I mentioned here. Were they fair? Was it a good opinion? Do let me know what you think in the comments below.